Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. Today we are talking the Inky List, and we're going to take a closer look at how this former darling of the drugstore skincare world, which launched 5 years ago to near universal acclaim and hype, now finds itself in a position where its recent launches just haven't hit home the way its original collection did, and according to some sources, sales have started to stagnate or in some instances even fall. What went wrong? Where did the gloss start to slip when it came to this brand, and can they recover that in the future? We're going to discuss it all in today's video, so sit back, relax, and let's talk all things the Inky List. Now, before we get into this video, just a quick reminder to do all that YouTubey stuff if you haven't already. If you could reach down and give this video a thumbs up and a like. This style of video takes an awful lot of research and pulling together, and the best way to support me as a content creator is by liking the videos here on YouTube, because the more likes the video gets, the more widely YouTube will distribute it on its platform. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. I would also love to know in the comments section below what your thoughts are on the Inky List. Are you still like a firm fangirl for the brand, or have you started to move away from what they have to offer? Let me know and let's really get that conversation going. I've got an awful lot to cover in today's video, so shall we just cut that waffle and delve straight on in? Now, when we go back to the start, the origins of the Inky List, we really don't have to go back that far because this brand is just 5 years old. I think when you look at their global dominance, just how big a brand they've actually become in a short space of time, you maybe would expect them to have been around for decades, but they haven't. They launched with minimal investment and in a relatively short time frame to almost conquer the world. They've gone territory by territory to become one of the biggest drugstore skincare brands around. Lots of influencers fell hard for this brand, promoting their products and saying just how well they worked in their own skincare routine. I think all of this is a credit to Mark and Colette, who are the founders of the Inky List. They got a bit of a head start because they were already in the beauty industry and space, so they have those connections to really make it possible. But it's clear through the right decisions, the hard work and the determination that they've been able to transform what was a startup just 5 years ago into a multinational corporation and brand today. However, with that increased dominance of the drugstore skincare space has come an increase in scrutiny too. Lots of people have started to call out some of the actions by the Inky List, some of their pricing decisions, their new launches, and all of this has kind of taken the shine off what seemed like an aura of invincibility just a couple of years ago when it came to the brand. This is really what I want to explore in today's video. Now, this is a brand that I don't think is going anywhere in the immediate future. I think there's always the opportunity to correct some past mistakes, and that's something I really hope the Inky List do. We're going to talk about that later on in the video, but I kind of want to go through things in a bit of a timeline to see where some of the cracks started to emerge. Whilst the brand launched with massive success, there was a minor little bit of controversy from the start. Colette, who was one of the founders of the Inky List, like I said, referred to the brand as like the fast fashion equivalent in the skincare industry, something that they almost wore like a badge of honour when it came to their own brand. Fast fashion is something that's used to denote clothes that we might buy, wear for a season, then chuck away. That sort of disposable fashion that was all the rage, say 5 or 10 years ago. I think this was a bit of an ill-timed comment by the Inky List founder because at the time it was made, the whole world was kind of moving away from that fast fashion approach. I think we were all starting to become more conscientious consumers, mindful of our waste, and we wanted to invest in products that would deliver for the long term rather than what was just fashionable in the moment. Because the brand was new, I don't think many people really picked up on this comment. It was quietly hushed up, and I do notice that the Inky List have never referred to themselves as the fast fashion equivalent in skincare since they learnt from that mistake, and whilst it does still rear its head on some forums, some Reddit threads where people are saying actually this is kind of the core problem with the Inky List and their approach, I don't think many people are actually aware of this comment, and it's certainly not something that's stuck with them throughout their time here in the drugstore. Whilst comments like that might have put the odd person off at launch, people continue to go mad for the Inky List. I think they love the simplicity of their design aesthetic. The bottles and the products looked beautiful on your vanity. They really focused down on single active ingredient formulations, which was all the rage at the time and really played into what was popular in the skincare space. They came at ridiculously affordable price points, leading to a lot of people to say, how did they actually manage to do this? These quality formulations in relatively large size components for a fraction of what some of the other bigger corporations and brands are charging. This just fueled hype on hype on hype, and as a brand they exploded in popularity from like 6 to 12 months after their inception. Now everything continued to go strong, and it actually took a good couple of years until the next crack started to emerge. And it was all relating to their succinic acid blemish treatment. So this is a product that actually works really, really well. So whilst there was a bit of controversy around its name and the marketing that they employed with it, actually as a product it delivers, particularly if you're prone to breakouts and acne and want something to kind of calm it all down. When this launched, it was super, super popular, but then people started to say, is the marketing around this just a little misleading? So it's called the succinic acid blemish treatment, and while some studies show that succinic acid can be great at reducing the prevalence of breakouts, actually in this product it's the sulfur alongside some of the other key ingredients that are doing the heavy lifting. Anyone that knows about formulation ingredients could tell that from just one glance at the bottle, but the Inky List were keen to highlight the succinic acid element because it was new, it was innovative, no one had heard of this ingredient, so they thought they were paying for something really new, really exciting, when actually they were paying for a sulfur spot treatment which has been around for decades. This isn't something that actually bothered me. At the end of the day, if the product works, it works, but I think a lot of people started to pay closer attention to the marketing strategy of the Inky List. What are they actually doing to get us to buy their products? And then they started to look closer at some of the other products, such as the fulvic acid brightening cleanser. Again, saying fulvic acid, there was in such a minuscule concentration within the product. Does it really deserve to be front and center in the name, on the bottle? And this is just another example of the Inky List focusing down on what are quite exciting sounding ingredients to sell their products when those actual ingredients themselves are doing practically nothing in the formulation. Whilst this sort of issue might only appeal to the hardcore skincare nerds, myself included, that take a look at these sort of formulations and ingredients and want to understand more about them, this might have actually passed a whole suite of people by that just want to reach for the products because they work. However, I think this sort of approach to marketing meant that a lot of people started to take a closer look at the other ingredients, the other products in their range, and uncovered some things that maybe the Inky List wanted to hide. The main example of this was with their retinol. So their retinol is probably one of their best sellers, and they said this is a 1% retinol that would deliver massive anti-aging benefits for the skin. When you actually dig a little bit deeper, it's not a 1% retinol, it's a 1% Retistar complex, which actually has a minuscule amount of retinol in it, alongside some other vitamin A derivatives, esters and components which come together to form that 1%. Another example of the sort of misleading marketing that meant a lot of people started to say, you know what, the Inky List, we used to think were like the good guys in the skincare world, doing everything right, being really wholesome, offering fantastic formulations at rock bottom prices. But actually, is everything as it seems? Or are they just like any other brand out there, using marketing to kind of trick consumers into wanting to reach for their product over any of their competitors? Whilst that might not bother a whole suite of people, a lot of us did start to look at the Inky List and think, you know what, maybe they're just not as good as they wanted us to believe on the launch. Maybe they're just doing the same old shady practices that the rest of the skincare industry was doing, and I think this led a lot of people to be a little disappointed. Whatever we thought as consumers around this marketing approach, it really didn't bother the Inky List because they stuck to this tried and true method and continue to promote all of their new products in a similar way. We had the Sim Bright moisturizer. Sim Bright, was it really doing anything in the formulation? Who actually knows? But again, another example of using what is really an innovative and exciting named ingredient to kind of sell your product rather than allowing the results to sell themselves. It's around this time though that fast fashion comment that we referenced very early on in this video at the launch of the Inky List kind of came back to bite them. Lots of people started to notice that they were just launching product on product on product. That's not necessarily a problem if the quality is maintained, but a lot of people started to say the quality just wasn't there. Like I say, their Sim Bright moisturizer worked for some people, but a lot of people said it was just greasy, it pilled, it didn't layer well on the skin. The same thing happened with some of their more recent launches, where people said the quality of the formulation just isn't there. These products aren't delivering, and this is when people start to say maybe they are like the fast fashion equivalent still, churning out the products to get those cash registers ringing, not really worrying too much about the quality of the formulations because they can switch it up when they want. Whatever's trendy, they can then promote in order to maintain those sales. This would link back to that original fast fashion comment, and again, I think it started to erode the confidence that we had in the Inky List as a brand. Now we're going to fast forward to just the last 12 or 18 months. The Inky List did kind of take a little bit of a pause in terms of churning out their products because they actually started to focus down on the Selfless by Hyram line. Hyram, who's the biggest skincare content creator here on YouTube and over on TikTok, decided he wanted to create his own line and did this in conjunction with the Inky List. Now we still to this day don't really know how this works in terms of structure. ownership. I think the more that time passes, the more involved we now know the Inky List were in this. Rather than Hyram coming up with the concept and the Inky List just creating it on his behalf, I think they were in the driving seat front and centre at the start, and you can see that with the way that these products were marketed. Whilst the Selfless by Hyram line had an awful lot of hype linked to it, people were really exciting. They'd kind of been expecting a line from their favourite content creator on YouTube for quite some time, and then of course when it hit, people couldn't wait to get their hands on the products. The problem is those sales just weren't sustained. The first thing that shocked people is that it didn't sell out on launch. Now, I actually don't think this is a huge issue. Some people say, well, it's not been as popular as they thought. Well, no, perhaps they just got their inventory levels right. Maybe they were able to harness their economies of scale to produce maximum amount of product so that everyone that wanted to could get their hands on it. Just because something doesn't sell out on launch doesn't necessarily mean it's a failure. They might have just got their stock levels spot on and to perfection, which meant that they were never without any of the products. However, I think it's become clear over the next 18 months after launch that the products aren't selling the way that they intended to them. The constant sales of upwards to 50% off the line, I think now there's a standard 30% off, which has been going for quite some time, means that really they're struggling to shift the volumes and the units that they were expecting. A lot of this is down to the fact that the Inky List as a brand had their name all over this. It was Selfless by Hyram powered by the Inky List, and so people were very much expecting that drugstore Inky List pricing. When the average product was double what the equivalent in the Inky List collection would be, that I think shocked a lot of people. And whilst these products aren't ridiculously expensive when you compare and contrast it to the wider industry, I think that association with the Inky List just made people expect a cheaper price point, so they were a little bit disappointed when it did launch, which is probably one of the biggest driving factors why people aren't repurchasing it time and time again, which is why the sales of this line have stagnated. You can absolutely see the Inky List stamp all over this line, the way they market the products, you know, the Q10 serum that didn't actually contain any Q10, but they could get around that by using peptide Q10. That's just the Inky List 101 when it comes to marketing. So you can see that there were more than just the formulators of this. They were clearly front and center. And I think the more that people realized this, the more any disappointment about the brand was directed not at Hyram himself, but actually of the Inky List. And I'm definitely of the persuasion that they should be held accountable for this. I think that Hyram definitely put his name to the product and was involved in the formulations and coming up with what the products would be. But it's definitely the Inky List that being the driving force behind this, and I think the more we know about it, the more that becomes clear. I think, however, it's in the last 6 months that the shine has really taken a dim when it comes to the Inky List. We had a suite of price increases which were really badly received by their consumer base. Now, I actually don't blame the Inky List for this. There are inflationary pressures across the globe at the moment, with the cost of everything going up, up and up. And it's only right that brands would want to pass some of those increased costs onto us, the consumer. But I think a lot of people said that the way they went about it, coupled with the fact that these were relatively high price increases, meant that they were looking elsewhere. The drugstore has a variety of different brands and products to reach for. There's no need to reach for the Inky List. They're no longer the cheapest, so maybe you could just get better formulations elsewhere. This, coupled with the fact that the shine had come off some of the way they market their products, meant that people were just feeling a little bit meh towards the brand in general and were looking for some better alternatives. This is when they came up with their Super Solutions range. This launched with a lot of marketing. They sent out these products to just about every influencer on the planet to try and rave about, but the reception was far more underwhelming than I think they expected. All this comes back to the fact that whilst it's badged as a super solution, there was nothing in any of these products that wasn't already in existence at the drugstore, often at a cheaper price. The 10% azelaic acid serum that they overpromised but was never really going to deliver what they said it would. You then had the retinol, which really just shone further light on how bad their original retinol was, because this had a true 1%, which led a lot of people to say, well, why would I pay double for this Super Solutions one when you can get the same in the Inky List with the original one? Oh wait, because the original one isn't actually a 1%. And again, I think this got that conversation going. With everybody looking to streamline the cost of their skincare routine, minimise where they can, I think a lot of people are taking a look at the Inky List and saying, are they really the good guys in the industry, or are there better drugstore alternatives available? Now that pretty much takes us to the situation the Inky List find themselves in now, where a lot of the gloss and the hype around this brand has really started to fade. I don't think this fading is linked to any specific incident that I've covered in this video. I think it's that culmination. You know, the original products were so well received because they genuinely delivered. The launches since just haven't. Their reliance on that marketing approach of really choosing an innovative ingredient and shouting it from the rooftops doesn't play well in 2022 when people are much more clued up on ingredients. You can go onto like the Inky Decoder website, put that ingredient in and know exactly what it's going to do. So we're not as easy to fool as consumers as maybe we were 5 or 10 years ago. The Inky List are clearly not taking this loss of popularity lying down, launching their new Super Solutions range. But again, I think that just cemented people's opinions of the brand, saying all this is standard fare that you could find at the drugstore, overhyped and with a higher price point than what some other brands are charging. Kind of nothing special, innovative to see there. A benzoyl peroxide wash, you can get that at Oxy for a fraction of the price. A 10% azelaic acid, face theory actually deliver a better one with a 40% reduction in the cost of what the Inky List are looking to charge. We now have options in the skincare market and we kind of know as consumers what's going to deliver for us and what is just overhyped marketing, which is why I think the Inky List approach just doesn't wash the way it used to. I think their association with the Selfless by Hyram brand probably did them no favours, whilst initially being directly associated with one of the biggest content creators on skincare planet Earth has to have its perks, its attractions and benefits. I think in the long term, a lot of people are pointing fingers at the Inky List for some of the failings of that brand, particularly around pricing and the way that they choose to market the products. Ultimately, through their actions, over a period of the past 5 years, we find that people are paying a lot more attention and scrutiny to the Inky List, which obviously is the right thing to do. No brand gets it right all the time. However, I think the Inky List, through their relentless approach to marketing of their products and some of the poor formulations when it comes to their newer launches, have brought a lot of this on themselves. When you now look to the future, can the Inky List win this back? Absolutely. You know, there is definitely going to be a lot more call for drugstore skincare in the coming years. The cost of living is going up, up and up, so people are looking to cut the cost of their overall skincare routine, and the drugstore is a great place to do that. However, I think the Inky List kind of need to turn this around fairly quickly. Stop focusing on, gimmicky ingredients and actually sell the benefits of the product. Let the quality formulations shine through. And instead of just churning out product on product on product, take the time to actually properly develop and construct a product to then allow it to be brought to market and almost sell itself. The original The Inky List products took off so well because they were genuinely amazing. For the price point, you couldn't get better, which is why everybody was singing its praises, and that word of mouth really carried the sales through the roof. They can regain all of that if they just focus down on that original ethos. Less fast fashion skincare, more focused on quality formulations that deliver for what happens to be a much more demanding consumer base. Hopefully in this video it's given you a little bit of food for thought. I don't want this to be a negative approach. I absolutely hope and wish that Inky List every bit of success in the future. I think it's possible to turn all of this around and see their sales once again climb into the stratosphere. But I think they need to take a look at the approach that they're taking. I understand that consumers in 2022 probably know a little bit more than maybe they did in 2018 when the brand launched, and maybe expect just a little bit more from the skincare brands we purchase from. I would love to know your thoughts, feelings, opinions, so sound off in the comments section below, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye.